Hi everyone. So welcome back to our YouTube channel and today we will be discussing about the demand, right? So the demand in the last video we discussed about the optimal choice of the consumer and in this video we will continue with that and we will see that how the demand curve is formed and it is continuation of what we have discussed in the last video, right? So what is exactly is demand? So, as you know, whenever we go outside and want to purchase any good or service, we consider different factors. It is like the uh, what exactly we want to buy, and we check the prices, we check our budget, we check our whether we check we see okay which good or service would give us more utility. So we have a good quick scan and we see all the different um, the combinations, and based on that we make a choice, and that reflects the choice that we make will be reflected as a demand for that good, right? Will be counted as a demand. So in words we can write that demand of a commodity is the quantity of a good that a consumer is willing and able to afford given the price, given the prices of goods, right? And the consumer's preferences towards that good, right? Consumers' preferences. So that is a demand of a commodity. Mm. All right. Now, as you we can also show this in the form of a graph as well. X2, X1, and this is X is equals to function of price, right? That is the quantity demanded of a good, the demand of a good is dependent on the price of that good, right? So here we are assuming that considering other factors remaining constant, we are saying that the quantity demanded of that good is dependent on the price of that good, right? So we have considered a one good only. Right now, in indifference curves, we were comparing two goods, right? We have a bundle of the two goods. Here, we are talking about a demand curve of one commodity, right? So it applies to other commodity as well. But so the quantity demand of that good is dependent on the price of that good, correct? So it's a function of price. So that is the downward sloping curve, and we can also see that how we can derive it, but just understand that demand curve is basically the function of price, where the considering other factors remaining constant, assuming other factors like consumer preferences, prices of other goods, the income, they remain constant. Assuming other factors remain constant. All right. Now, let's see what in our textbook says. Right. So they have mentioned some example also, and they have given some example where we have taken some values of uh, x and we have provided the value of y. So let's take an example. Let's take an example that x is equals to function of p, or we can say y is equals to function of x, because y is the y-axis and x is an x-axis, where y denotes the price and x denotes the quantity demanded. Okay. Now, so let's take an example where the x is 0, no, not 0, it's 1, 2, and 3, and y corresponding values of y are provided at, let's say, um, no, we have provided the x kinetics values and corresponding values of y are provided, right? So let's say 10 and 15, 28, right? Now, um, let's try to put these values in a graph. So here is 1, 2, 3. This is 10, this is 15, and this is 28. So corresponding to 1, 2, and 3, I'm just, so basically this becomes our demand curve, right? So it depends on the what is the function of y, right? What is the, like, it can, here it is like upward sloping. So they have the dots that we connected, the function came out to be a upward sloping curve. Now there's another example that we can take. For example, let's take the example from a book itself. Now we have this. So we can also mention in this previous example, we can also say that y is equals to function of x, where is an increasing function of x. So let's say we can also say that f of 1 is 10, f of 2 is 15, f of 3 is 28. All right. Now, let's take another example where we mentioned the another function is that y is equals to 5 plus x, and there's another example, y is equals to 5 minus x. All right, so if x is 0, then y is 5. If x is 1, then y is 6. If x is 2, then y is 7. And if x is 3, y is 8. Okay, so it goes on, because x value can be like, any number, any whole number. If it is a, like the number is, it can be any number, right? So if x is 0, we have y is 5, then x is 1, we have 6, 7, 8, 9. It would be a straight line. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Now, um, 3, 4. Now let's say we have x is equals to 0, then y is 5, x is 1, y is 4, x is 2, y is 3, and x is 3, y is 2, and so on. So the graph that we get for this function is, if x is 0, y is 5, 1 is 4, 2 is 3, 3 is 2. Now if we join these dots, we get a downward sloping demand curve, right? Or we can say y is equals to 5 plus x. Here it is equals to 5 minus x. So as we can see that in general, like it is depending on the function of y, we can draw the demand curve accordingly. However, in general, we have these demand curve as downward sloping only, right? Now, what's next is that this is what we get the demand curve. Now we can derive also the demand curve from the indifference curves. Derive demand curve from indifference curve. Correct. From indifference curve, and budget line. All right, X and then Y. Let's say we have this budget line. So how we can derive the demand curve? Since we know that demand curve is dependent on the quantity demand is dependent on the price. So let's change the price of a good. And now let's say we have this the initial price level or initial optimal level. Okay, this is Y star and this is X star. Now M by P1. Okay, this is X1 and this is X2. Now we are changing the price of only one good. Okay, if we change the price of one, let's say P1 dash to um let's say earlier it was P1 was 10, now P1 dash is 20. Right. So price of good one has increased. In that case, what happened? I would not be able to consume as many quantities of good one as I was able to consume earlier. So let's say M is 100. So now earlier I was able to consume 10 units. If I spend all my income on good one, now I'm able to consume only 5 units. Right. So just for the sake of representation, I have just drawn over the M by P1 dash over here. Okay. Now, now I have got here M by P2. Now this is what M by P1 double dash. So it is like P1 dash is equals to 20. Now P1 double dash is let's say 30. So it would be like 3.3333, right? So what is happening right now? Now the our budget line are, if I draw an indifference curve, so earlier I was able to consume over here. Now I will able to consume only these quantity. Correct? Now this one, and for this I would be able to consume more less. Now if I join these, track these points, this one, A, B, and C, right? What is happening as the prices of good in X increases? Now the quantity consumed, the optimal choice of the good of the consumer for the good one reduces, right? The quantity demanded by the consumer for good one reduces, right? Earlier it was this one, then it shifted to this and this, right? Now, if I draw these lines, we get this A part. Let's say this is quantity X, this is Y. Um, now, if I take this value of X over here, now over here, we are at point where P1 is 10, P1 is 10, our quantity, let's say, is this, right? When P1 is 10, okay. Now P1 is 20, okay, sorry, P1 is 10, now quantity is this much. Now if we increase the P1 to 20, quantity has reduced. Why? Let's see this. This is, let's say, this is value of 10. Now it has increased to 20. The quantity demanded has decreased. This. So this is becomes our points A, B, and C, and this becomes our demand curve. Okay, so this becomes a little messy, but you just understand that we're just connecting these points like as at point T at price of 10, the quantity demanded by the consumer for good X is this. Now at price of 20, the quantity demanded by the consumer is this, and at price 30, the quantity demanded by the good is by the consumer is this, right? So X1, X1 star, X1 dash, X1 double dash, right? Now, I guess that's what gets more and interesting. Like once we get the derivation, that how we be able to derive the demand curve with the help of our indifference curve and the budget line. Um, Now it becomes, I suppose it becomes more interesting and more, it will retain, we will be able to retain more. So that's all for this video. We will continue with the more from the uh, more on this demand curve, and we will discuss more about the further about the properties of demand curve and like what there are like there is so much to talk about on this. So we will cover that in our next video. So till then, thank you so much. Stay tuned. Bye bye.